It's Tuesday, it's 4 p.m., and welcome to our live video review for Kingdom Hearts 2 for the PlayStation 2. Today, we're going to be talking about Kingdom Hearts 2, the latest collaboration between Square and Disney. We're going to get to the bottom of, is this game any good or not? With me is the person who reviewed the game, Carrie Guskos. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Great. So you have been playing this game at great lengths
At great
recently.
lengths, yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and set us up for us? What's this game all about?
Sure. Well, I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that Kingdom Hearts, the original, came out in 2002 for the PlayStation 2. It was a collaboration between Squaresoft and Disney. And in it, you encountered both Square and Disney characters. And it was sort of like this action RPG. Kingdom Hearts 2 is the sequel. It's very much in the same vein as the original Kingdom Hearts. And it is very much like it. But it does improve upon a lot of the mechanics that were sort of a little bit tricky in the first one. There were a couple things that were notoriously bad about it. Camera, a couple control problems. So this game sort of picks up where the other game left off, both in story and in sort of gameplay growth. And you continue on your adventures with the same main character as you sort of go all around as Sora, who's the main sort of invented character. He's not from either a previous Square or Disney franchise. And your two main buddies are Goofy and Donald Duck.
Cool.
So yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's get into your questions. You'll see a little form on the page there where you can submit your questions to us, and we'll be taking your questions over the course of the review. We'll jump right in here with our first one.
All right.
And this is from Chris Pigna of Coconut Creek. I want Kingdom Hearts 2. Well, all right, Chris, you're halfway there. But he's never played Chains of Memory, and he's never played the original Kingdom Hearts. Will Chris be lost in all the goings-on, and are the goings-on even interesting enough to care about? Do you need that kind of knowledge of the previous games?
Okay. Well, Chris, it does pick up the story from both the original Kingdom Hearts and the GBA release in the meantime, Chain of Memory. And so for those of you who have played the other two games, you're definitely going to have the leg up. Oh, they're going to have the leg up on you, I should say. If you haven't played the original game, there is some value, especially if you enjoy Disney, you enjoy Square characters. If the characters that you're sort of seeing right now playing with the gameplay footage, if that is familiar to you and enjoyable, you think you like to interact with them, then you can definitely get something out of it. This game has an extremely long introduction, which basically not only introduces you to the gameplay mechanics, but it also introduces you to what's going on in the game, and with a lot of flashbacks to the original Kingdom Hearts. So it will fill you in on the story. I think that if you haven't played the original game, I can't speak to it because I have played it, but I think it'll be a little bit confusing at parts. But they try to do a good job of filling you in on the story. So if you're not entirely sure, I would say go for it if you like Disney and you like Square. And if you have time, go ahead and just play the first Kingdom Hearts.
Cool. All right. Brendan Weber from Spokane wants to know, what new faces are we going to see in the game? I mean, the first game just had so many just like weird kind of surprises. Obviously, we don't want to give too much away for people that want to play the game, but you know, what kind of new characters are we going to see?
So there are a couple Disney movies that, well, there's one in particular that has come out since the last one, which would be Pirates of the Caribbean. I think that's sort of one that everyone's familiar with. And also, Tron is also in the game as well. So you're going to see Tron, you're going to see Pirates of the Caribbean. Those were two franchises that you didn't see in the last game. And you will be able to play in those levels. So it's sort of entirely new gameplay experiences. There are some gameplay experiences that are from the original Kingdom Hearts. So you will be returning to old levels, and you'll be returning to old friends. But the Tron stuff, the pirate stuff, is completely new.
Cool. All right, now on that Pirates of the Caribbean note, David Rose from Lansing wants to know: is Jack Sparrow voiced by Johnny Depp? Do we know? Is it?
That's a great question. When I was playing through it, I swore to myself it sounded exactly like Johnny Depp. But you get moments where you're like, I'm not sure. I went and checked out the sound list on IMDb or whatever,
yeah.
And Jeffrey Rush is definitely doing the voice of Barbossa. But there's no sign yet of whether or not it's Johnny Depp. If it isn't Johnny Depp, it is so good and so close, it doesn't really matter. Like,
right.
I feel like maybe people will be listening for Johnny Depp, so maybe they'll be able to tell the difference. But with most of the voice acting in this game is absolutely fantastic. And if they don't have the original actor, and they have a lot of original actors, James Wood is coming back, Gilbert Gottfried as Iago on the Aladdin section. Just a ton of actors coming back to voice their characters. If they don't have the original character, then they try to fill it in with someone who voiced the character on the TV series or the straight-to-video sequels and stuff like that. So they did a really good job of that. And no matter what, almost all of the characters are done really well. And that's for the Disney characters. Some of the Square characters are hurting a little bit, but the Disney characters in particular are doing really well. And they're most of the people that you'll be talking to anyway.
Cool. Shane Morgan in Las Vegas says, we know that there are appearances by plenty of Disney characters, but what about Square characters? Do a lot of them turn up, and how are they treated dialogue-wise and stuff like that?
There are a number of Square characters, and in fact, I would say if you're a fan of Squaresoft, you're going to be excited by some of the characters appearing in this game, some which were in the last game, some which weren't. I don't really want to say what Square characters were in the game. You do get to fight alongside Auron, and there are some other characters in there. The treatment is different. I would almost say it's unfair to the Square characters because the Disney characters not only they get the lines of dialogue, and a lot of the Disney characters use the same lines of dialogue from the movies, but the Square characters don't have that because they're sort of ripped out of their own universe. So instead, they're just sort of interacting with you, and they definitely get a little bit of an awkward treatment. I mentioned one line in the review that's particularly bad. So
yeah, that one jumped out. What is it?
It's Cypher from Final Fantasy VIII. You interact with him quite a bit, and there's this moment where he beats you, and he says, "We totally owned you, lamers," and it's just awful.
Oh.
So yeah.
That's, well, all right then. Sure. Kyle Byrne from Summit says, how is the combat? Is it more fun than the first game? And how actiony is it?
How actiony is it? Well, it's definitely more actiony than RPG. The problem is, well, I guess let's just say the good things. The good things is it has improved from the first one. The basic combat is, you have attack, you have magic, and the two characters that you fight alongside with, you can sort of customize them so they can be maybe, like Donald is generally doing the magic, and I go for the melee. So you have a nice balance between the characters in your party. But yes, you can attack, you can do magic, you can do summons, you can do limit breaks. It's all like a Final Fantasy game, traditional RPG games where you have a bunch of different things to do. There's also something new to this game called the drive meter, which is basically like an additional limit break, if you will. You actually combine forces quite literally with one of your characters, and you get sort of a powered-up version of you, and actually like brings your health meter back, and you have this sort of powered-up version. So there's a new dynamic to the gameplay with the drive meter, and the regular combat has improved, especially with we have all these abilities in the game that you can sort of customize how you want to go, and I could show abilities actually if you want to take a look at what our abilities are. So this is the menu. I've taken a save a little bit earlier on so that I don't show you everything that's going on right here. So these are the three people in the party right now, Sora, Donald, and Goofy. And this is the abilities menu. So as you play through, you get ability points that you can use to allocate, and you can just sort of pick them up and put them down and sort of determine like how you want your character to play. And there are a couple different options. There's the action right here, which sort of tells you different things that you can do that sort of change the way the melee works. And then there's support right here. So like I always have scan up because I want to know what the person I'm fighting, how much health they have left. Something like gives you a boost to the amount of experience that you gain. So you can sort of pick and choose how you want your characters. And you can do that with all of the characters that you're fighting with. And you can also do it, if people who played the first Kingdom Hearts remember, you can sort of specify how you want the AI to interact. So this is Donald. He's being controlled by the computer, but I can choose right here whether or not I want him to use this freely, if I want to use it conservatively, or only use it in very special circumstances. So there's a lot of really cool little RPG stuff that you can do if you're really into the kind of thing. But the nice thing about it is that you can kind of throw points around however you want and then just get into the gameplay and start playing, and you don't have to worry about it too much. So there's some stuff that's definitely taken from the first Kingdom Hearts, and there's some stuff that's definitely improved. One of my major criticisms with this game is that it is button mashy. It's super button mashy still, even though they've included this drive meter and they have summons, they have limit breaks and all that stuff. It is still super button mashy. You can get through most of the game just by jamming on the X button. They did incorporate, they have this, there's a triangle button now which does like context sensitive events. So certain characters will be fighting and it'll pop up and it'll say reversal, and you want to hit that whenever you can, and that does give a little bit of an extra dynamic to the game, but it's still just jamming on the X button with the occasional triangle button
so it's
thrown
like
in there.
you're timing occasional triangle press.
Right, exactly, which is it's not ideal. I mean, again, it's definitely an improvement, but it's not ideal.
Okay. Ulrichs out of Karlstad.
Oh, Ulrichs.
Yeah, Ulrich says says hello.
Hello.
I was wondering if there are any side quests or side missions in Kingdom Hearts 2. Is it all pretty much linear, or do you get chances to get off the beaten path and do stuff?
There is definitely other stuff to do, and that's definitely going to be for people who are really into this game and want to get through and go through it all. For example, the making a return appearance is the Colosseum, the Olympus Colosseum, which is taken from the Hercules movie, and so that's sort of a battle mode where you go in and duke it out and you get different cups and then you get different prizes for competing in those cups. There's also the 100 Acre Wood, which is the Winnie the Pooh level, which is sort of mini games and stuff. You find torn pages from the Winnie the Pooh book and you go back and you put them in the book and then you can play the mini games and you can unlock more stuff. Also making a return appearance, the gummy ships, which everyone absolutely hated from the first game.
Yeah, we got one question. That's one of the questions I had for later. Is someone said they hated the gummy ships in the first game?
Right. So the gummy ships. Well, I won't talk about that much, but there are some extra gummy ship levels that you can do if you want to play through the gummy ship levels multiple times. So there's definitely some side stuff to do. It's not super freeform. There's not a ton of stuff to do, but there's definitely enough to keep you busy.
Cool. Scott Adair in Calgary asks, can you get other characters besides Donald and Goofy to fight beside you?
Sure, and that's actually like most of the fun. I mean, what makes this game really exciting is journeying to these new levels and seeing who it is that you're going to team up with. Obviously, in the Disney-themed levels, you're going to interact with who you think you'd interact with, sort of the main characters. So, for example, in the Pirates of the Caribbean level, you're going to team up with Jack Sparrow, and he's going to fight alongside you, and you'll have to pick one of your characters to sit out, and then you'll fight with him. And most of these actually follow the plot of the movie, so you'll be doing sort of exactly the things that you would expect to be doing, fighting Captain Barbossa and trying to return the coins to the chest. So.
Okay, Rajand out of North York has a follow-up question on that. It says, in terms of gameplay mechanics, how much control do you have over those helper characters? Do they just kind of do their own thing, or do you govern them at all? You
can't govern what they do. You can go in and mess around with their ability points, and as you play through the game, the later characters have a lot of ability points. But you can definitely mess with their ability points and sort of change their basic AI, but the computer is going to control that character for you. Right. So you don't, I guess that was one of the criticisms of the first game is that, like, for example, if you didn't do anything about it, Donald would just spam the hell out of the magic, and then he would just be all gone, and then, you'd have to. So if you are noticing these kinds of things, the game offers you the ability to jump into the pause menu and go in and explore and figure out how you want to tweak your AI exactly. But, like, for example, with potions and stuff, you can equip the other characters with potions, and then you can equip whether or not they use it. They're allowed to auto-reload it. So you can equip them with one potion, or you can equip them with, like, an endless supply. Right. So there's some tweaking involved, and with the characters you team up with, it's as much as it is with Donald and Goofy.
Cool, all right. Brandon Cole in Columbus says, I was wondering if the lock-on system from the first game is still there. As a blind game player, it's what I rely on to fight.
Oh, wow. A lock-on system, I don't recall how lock-on system worked in the first one exactly. You definitely can lock on to targets, and I don't remember how it worked exactly, but basically you just press R1 and you can actually hear it, like, lock on. So I'm guessing that's probably what was the biggest advantage to him. So it should have the exact same functionality. If it doesn't, then it's probably an option to turn on and off.
Scott Chisholm in Ancaster asks, how long is the game?
It's very, very long. The main quest clocks in and around, I guess I clocked in around 53 hours. Now, give or take a couple of those hours where I just left it on pause to go do something else. So I would say over 40 hours, probably like 45 hours of sort of the main quest, but you can go back and do other things.
Cool. That's lengthy.
You're telling me, dude. It is quite lengthy.
Yeah. Sterling Peterson in New York City says, does the Tron world feel like Tron? And my follow-up is, what kind of Tron characters do you run into? Like, Sark and stuff like that from the movie.
Sark and Tron, basically.
Okay, so it's the first Tron, not the Tron 2.0.
No. Yeah, it's the first. Yeah, okay. Exactly. Does it feel like Tron? Well, one of the things that the game does really well is music and sound and stuff. And I didn't recall how the music went exactly, but I actually beckoned Jason Ocampo over, who declared that he saw Tron in the theater, and so he was the ultimate expert. And he walked away from the game humming the song, which I thought was funny because in the Pirates of the Caribbean level I did the exact same thing. I walk away from the game humming the song. So the music does a really good job of bringing the world to life, and it definitely looks like Tron. And you're going to ride the light cycles, and
okay, so you do get to do light cycles.
Yeah, you do. It's a little reminiscent of the Final Fantasy VII motorcycle sequence.
Oh.
So take that as you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does feel like Tron. It's definitely really cool. I'm really glad they threw that in there because it's definitely different looking, and it makes the game look and feel really cool.
Right. Simon Henfrey asks, how big is the game world, and is it open-ended? Like, so is it pretty much linear? Are you kind of jumping around from world to world? How's that? What's that work?
To be fair, it's got sorry. It's linear. It's super linear, but you can jump around from different worlds, and you can go, like, say, between 1 or 2 or 3, that are open at one time. So you can do it sort of in any order that you like. But the gameplay within those worlds is super linear. The levels are pretty small. Mm-hmm. It's really taking on the main path it wants you to take you on. For example, in the first game, there were some problems with backtracking, maybe you didn't know where to go. In this game, if you're going the wrong way, like a little message will kind of pop up like, hey, that guy is that way. And so there's not a lot of room for you to wander, even if you want to, but it will definitely help you guide you if you're lost.
Cool. All right, moving on. Jason McMullen in Hawaii says, Kingdom Hearts 1's childish feel turned off some older players. Is Kingdom Hearts 2 any more mature than the first game?
Good question. No, it's not.
No, yeah.
No, it's not. And in fact, I want to say that there were moments in this game. Now, I don't buy into all that child hoopla, blah, blah, blah. I love Disney. I grew up, watching a lot of these movies. Like, Little Mermaid came out when I was really young, and so I love it. So I don't usually buy that stuff, but there were actually a couple moments in this game where I was like, oh my god, this game is designed for a kid. Like the rhythm game sequences, for example. The mini games, the rhythm games consists of 1, max 2 button presses, different buttons to use during the entire mini game. And I was thinking, God, we've been playing all these crazy, rhythm games, and even the rhythm mini games have evolved a lot. And the rhythm mini games in this game are super easy, so much that I almost question who the audience is. Then again, if you are an older gamer, and I guess I would consider myself older gamer, if you're an older gamer who has nostalgia for Disney and has nostalgia for Square, you're definitely going to find something about this game that's really enjoyable, really charming, and you'll get over the fact that you feel too old to be playing, kids' movies, games.
It just seems like the slickness of the presentation probably helps that go down a lot easier, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. And, the experience is what you make it, so you can make it complicated upon yourself. And that's one of the game's, definitely this game's strengths, is how easy it is for somebody who doesn't give, anything about RPG stats, ability points, all that stuff. They can do it really, really simply. But if you're really into that kind of thing, you can sort of tweak it the way that you want it. Unfortunately, the game is, for the most part, so easy that you don't need to. You can kind of do it for your own sake and collect stuff for your own sake, but you don't really need to, because it's super easy.
Craig Keene in Kelseyville asks, is the camera still as troublesome as before?
No, the camera has been fixed. I would actually say pretty much almost completely fixed. You're always going to have a little bit of a problem with third-person cameras, especially when you're platforming. There isn't as much platforming in this game as there was in the first Kingdom Hearts, and I almost had no problem with the camera whatsoever. You do control it, on the right analog stick, so it is up into your hands. But I had barely any problems with the camera.
Cool. And Scott Kucera in Bel Air asks, how are the jumping platform? Like, how is the platforming? That was something that, like, in the first game, seems like the jumps were spaced really maddeningly.
There's pretty much no platforming in this game. I'm trying to think about it. There's not really any platforming in the game. I remember in the first game, there were these moments where you're just like, because yeah, exactly. Sort of maddening platform jumping. There's minimal jumping for you want to jump up somewhere and get like a chest. They tuck them away, the chest that you get stuff out of, like potions and things. But for the most part, there's not that much jumping to deal with.
Cool. And I'll ask about graphics here. Rochester Roberts in Homestead says, "How are the graphics in this game, and are they comparable to the first game? Are they better? Like, what's the
Did you
deal?"
say Rochester Roberts?
Yes, I did.
That's awesome. Well, Rochester, yeah, it's a great looking game. It's fantastic, and they do such a good job with all the different environments. You know, there's just a ton of different looks and visual styles. I mean, especially with Tron and Pirates thrown in there, and with the Nightmare Before Christmas level, like there's just tons of stuff in there with a great variety of visual appeal, and all of it just looks great. And there's some really cool details with like the introduction to the different levels that tells you the name of the levels is sort of thematically done, as well as the heads-up display on that level. They're all going to have sort of little themes to it, and it's just cool. It looks great. I didn't run into any problems with the frame rate or anything, so it just looks great and smooth all the way around.
Cool. Jason Thomas in La Crosse asks, what are some of the new summons in the game?
Do you want me to just tell you all the summons?
Yeah, just lay them all out right here. You know, who has to play it, right?
Let me jump on over into the gameplay and just show you one of the summons. I'll show you one of the summons, and actually this summon is totally useless, but we're going to show them to you anyways. Chicken Little. So Chicken Little's one of the summons. He's voiced by Zach Braff, and he's not a very good summon. You can, I'm actually not near any enemies right now, so you can't show you. You can go into first-person shooter mode, and basically it just throws the camera, and he throws little. I never actually saw Chicken Little, so I don't even know what it is. But he throws like little eggs or balls or whatever at the character. But yeah, there are other summons in there. Do you really want me to tell everybody?
No. We
okay.
don't, we don't need to.
All right.
Reveal.
The Chicken Little's all you get. I've got.
Are there a good deal of new summons in the game?
All the summons are new. In fact.
Okay.
The summons, like some of the summons from the previous game, like Simba was a summon in the first game, and Mushu from Mulan was a summon in the first game. Both those characters now have their own worlds in this game, so you don't even have to like worry about it. Like, you know, now you get to play as them and see what they're going on. And the cool thing is that they'll even say to you like, hey, you know, long time, I helped you. And Mushu's like, hey, I helped you in your previous adventure, and now you owe me one, so come on, help out Mulan. So
cool. Momo in Wellington, Florida, says, how exactly does do the special timed combos work, and are they difficult? I think we've established nothing about the combat is particularly difficult.
No, nothing.
But how does the time stuff operate?
The time stuff operates like this: the triangle button appears on the screen, and you hit it. That's it. Like there's no tricky, you know, if you just sit there, and in fact, if you hit the triangle button you're not supposed to, it doesn't really affect you. So you can just sit there, and I spent a lot of time doing that. Right. You know, I mean,
how tight is the timing on it? Is that something where you need to do, or does the button pop up on screen and you kind of have plenty of time to hit it?
The button pops up and you have plenty of time to hit it. You do have to keep an eye on it, again, because if you're jamming like the melee combat and you're doing that a lot, and then all of a sudden maybe you're fighting a boss and you didn't realize that he has a like a time sensitive action, then you want to do that. Also with the limit breakers, for example, or limit breaks, whatever, those will have a certain number of button presses, but once you've established you want to do a limit break, then it's just a matter of just hitting the button to execute it. It's not tricky at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's a question. This person wants to know, Haley Joel Osment is back as Sora? What? And actually wrote, what? So, I mean, maybe we can talk a little bit more about the voice acting overall. How does
it's fantastic. Yeah. I don't have anything against Haley Joel Osment. The only thing I ever had against the voice acting was in the original Kingdom Hearts. They announced that Lance Bass was going to be Sephiroth, and the idea of an NSYNC member playing Sephiroth, if you're as much into Final Fantasy as I am, is like, you know, stabbing me through the heart.
Considering the masculinity of most Final Fantasy characters.
Oh, you and I are going to fight, Gerstmann.
It's pretty wild.
Anyway, so Haley Joel Osment is back, and yes, he is going through puberty, and so is Sora.
Fitting.
And yeah, so it works out pretty well. His voice is a little bit different. Did you finish it? But they explain it within the story. It's kind of like, hey, Sora, your clothes are getting kind of small on you, and you're growing and you're changing, and, you know, having those feelings that a man has to have to feel, you know?
Crazy.
So, yes.
All right, then. Roger Enyard in Irving says, I hate the gummy ship stuff. I hated it in the first. Will I like it in the second?
What's his name, Roger?
Yeah.
Roger, I hate the gummy ships in the first game, too. They're better. They're better. They're not perfect. It's the same sort of on-rail shooting. They're definitely better. Let's just say that. They're not perfect. I'll tell you this. after you do a gummy level, you unlock like different missions or whatever. I did not go back and play through them. I didn't want to deal with it. Once I went through the gummy ship, the whole thing is gummy levels happen between worlds. So you open a new world,
and then you have to travel there.
You have to travel there. Once you beat it once, you can just sort of go to that world without having to do the gummy ship again. You can if you want to. Never happened.
But you don't want to.
No, you don't want to. But definitely much more passable than it was in the last game. I remember there were people who were like, I am not playing Kingdom Hearts because the gummy ship is just so terrible. And I think you can really play through it, and it's fine. It is what it is. It's not great. It's not bad.
Cool. So this guy doesn't even XRM150. Not his real name.
That's his name? How do you know?
And Barto says, if you walk through an area and kill all the monsters in that area, if you walk through that area again without leaving the world, do the monsters respawn?
Oh, yeah, they do. They do. Okay. There's definitely room for grinding in this game. In the basic sort of main quest of the gameplay, there's definitely moments where you have to beat the enemies in an area, and there's sort of like, hey, you got to beat all these guys before the path will open up. But then there's a lot of sequences where you just sort of run into dudes. And if you want to fight them, which I recommend you do for a while at least, you'll get money and you'll get, different things. But you don't have to fight them, and you can usually just run on through if you need to. But yeah, they'll keep coming back.
Cool. Along the lines of enemies, David Hudson in Sacramento asks, what different types of enemies are in the sequel?
Oh, good question. Let's see. At the risk, I'm not going to say anything that's spoilerific. So let's just say there are returns of a lot of the familiar enemies. The Heartless is sort of the main baddie, and the Heartless come in a bunch of different incarnations. It's sort of like your little dudes, then like regular sort of little guys, and then as you play through levels, you'll get ones themed to that level. So maybe, for example, I don't know, they're like cannon dudes on the pirate ships in the pirate level, but they're all like Heartless. So you'll get the different themed Heartless that are appropriate to the new levels, as well as some of the old Heartless. And there's a new batch of enemy called, I'll just say the name is called Nobodies. And then there's a whole bunch of bosses, new bosses, and like a whole bunch of extra characters that I'm not going to talk about.
All right, cool. How is the soundtrack in the game? Is it as great as it is in the first game?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, better. It's a great sounding game. And again, with the voice acting is so good. There were a couple like, ugh, and for example, on the Little Mermaid level, you actually the mini games, and this sort of their redeeming quality is that you play through some of the songs from the Little Mermaid movie. So like Part of Your World, Under the Sea, and you're going to play through them. There's one song on there, and I didn't see any of the straight-to-video movies, but I know you did, Jeff Gerstmann.
Yeah, no, I have them all. Yeah.
Right. So there's one song on there that's bad, and I'm actually guessing it sounds like it was probably one of the ones that was from the straight-to-video,
Sure.
Ariel's Adventure Underwater or whatever. But most of the music and most of the sound is just fantastic.
Cool. Josh in South Carolina wants to know, does the story keep the same tone as it has in previous games, or is it a bit darker this time?
Actually, well, a little bit of both. The first game, he sort of seems so despondent all the time. Like, I'm on this quest, and I'm, he just seemed kind of down. This game is a little bit different. The plot is a little seedier. There's a little more going on. Which you'll understand, especially if you played the first one, but it doesn't seem that down. You're on these bright, cheerful Disney levels, and yeah, you're fighting a lot of evil dudes, but it's kind of fun, and Donald and Goofy are such a nice little combination to have with you, because they're kind of silly, and it's a very typical Disney humor where something happens, and then Donald says something stupid, and then everyone kind of has a little chuckle, so it's not that bad, no. And actually, the one thing I noticed about this game is that Goofy is wise, dude. Goofy is super wise. There's a couple moments in here where he says something and you're like, like Goofy, man. Like
Goofy knows stuff about things.
Goofy Goof, actually.
Right, yeah, full name, Goofy Goof.
Goofy Goof.
Who knew? I learned that today.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
But yeah, Goofy's a wise man. So it's just some cool stuff in there where you're interacting with Donald and Goofy.
Cool. Victor out of Port Huron wants to know, how are the mini games? Are they kind of a distraction to the story? Are they there for pure fun? You talked about the Little Mermaid rhythm game. Is there more stuff like that in there?
Sure, there's more stuff like that. Some of them are nice change of gameplay. I don't know if I actually call them mini games. I guess I would say there are mini games like the Pooh World, which is just mini games, and they are kind of boring and really easy and super like mash the buttons. There are sort of things that change the gameplay dynamic in the middle of a game, like for example in the Aladdin world, like you like ride the carpet and sort of changes it up instead of just walking around. How is it? It's the same. The gameplay in this game is really, I would almost say, secondary to the experience. You're really going to have a good time sort of playing through and enjoying and seeing the cameos and watching the characters interact and you know, being able to interact with them and control them, and that's really fun. The gameplay is not as strong as it could have been. Again, it was an improvement from the first one, but I would have loved to have seen it be a little more complicated, a little more rich, a little more interesting.
Sure. A couple more questions here before we wrap it up.
Sure.
Oren out of New York says, "How are the boss fights compared to the first? Are they memorable? Are there a lot of great encounters?"
It's interesting because the gameplay sort of divides up into like 3 segments. There's this super long intro, which is you should get through as fast as you possibly can. Then there's the bulk of the gameplay is explore the worlds and interact with the Disney characters and all that. Then there's the end, which is not an end by any means. It's many, 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 many hours, and that is just boss fight after boss fight after boss fight, and there's just tons. And you go back through all the worlds again and stuff. So yes, it's memorable. In some ways it's memorable because at the end of the game is only when it gets frustrating, because it was super easy throughout, and then at the end you're like, what? I have to actually like watch the screen while I play? This is impossible. But yeah, there are definitely some memorable boss fights. Again, none of them are really that hard in the beginning, and the major characters that you fight, the classic Disney bosses that you're going to be encountering, not too tough. But yeah. So there are a lot. You will remember some of them. You will remember they're definitely cool and definitely have like the world that's big and you know you're doing lots of cool stuff and you feel very small fighting the bosses, but not memorable because of how you play it or how difficult. Yeah.
Okay. And we'll wrap it up with this. Van Pham out of Garden Grove says, "Does this game have a good replay value? Is it a game you're going to want to come back to, or is it kind of you see the story and you know maybe you mess around with some of the side stuff and that's it, or is it worth going through on hard, basically, like a second time?"
I can't imagine doing it anytime soon. There are definitely people that are going to play through it again, and they're going to love it. For me, Kingdom Hearts experience lasts about as long as one game, which is about 50 hours, which is plenty of time. You can go back through, find stuff. Like, there's definitely lots of different lists and stuff. The journal, the Jiminy Cricket journal, is a lot more intricate. And they'll have different like treasure lists and stuff, like on the Gummy Ship level, treasure lists of what you can be collecting. So you can always just go back and get it all. I don't know why you do that because it's not totally necessary, but there are definitely people who are going to do it. The people that want to do it are going to love it. They're going to have a blast. For me, it wasn't, you know, the gameplay was enough, and it wasn't, honestly, the gameplay wasn't rich enough the first time around that I would want to play through it again. But there's definitely a lot to do, and you can do it if you're so inclined.
Great. All right, well, I think that just about wraps us up here today. So there you go, Kingdom Hearts 2. As always, you can check out the text review on the site. And if you missed the earlier part of this presentation, we'll have it up on the site for you to watch the whole thing beginning to end. So, Carrie, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. We'll do it again soon.
All right.